I feel like a broken record, but for a Kansas City Chiefs team to go up against a 2-9 Raiders team that their own head coach going into the game called the worst team in the NFL. He said this is the best team in the NFL against the worst team in the NFL. For them to not be able to put that team away, for them to have to rely on a botched snap from a backup center in order to win that game of football.
They should have lost that game, and they should have lost 5 other games. If Todd Bowles was more aggressive, they lose that game. If the Ravens get a pinky toe in, they lose the season opener. This keeps happening every week. And history, reality, the odds, the football gods, whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in, are telling us at some point this will end. I hated everything about how that Raiders game finished for this team. It's Black Friday, you're on not national TV, but you're on, streaming to the world. You're up. The Raiders have nothing to play for. They were chippy. Of course, Max Crosby kept going after him. The Chiefs were clearly the better team. My problem was the mental miscues, the penalties. Mahomes is almost always in trouble. He never can really set himself anymore. Noah Gray has big catches. Travis Kelce has some big catches. You had some big runs, but you had allowed a huge kick return that changed that game. Aiden O'Connell looked like he's the 2025 starter for the Raiders, and the Chiefs can't put away a 2-10 team, and they got bailed out again. I don't believe in any way at this moment the Chiefs can win the Super Bowl, and it feels like Patrick Mahomes is the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. Andy Reid is often getting out-coached. And the Chiefs, whatever, they're just not inspired right now. They can't touch the Bills and the Lions and the NFL's best right now.
There's the great old adage in sport that supposedly good teams win when they play well. Great teams win even when they play badly. This Chiefs team in the past have been the Sir Alex Ferguson Man United team. Yeah. They have been able to find ways to win. And I even thought earlier in this season, through that first 6-8 game stretch, when they were finding those late games, they were blocking field goals against the Broncos, they were nicking all those games by a single score. It was because they were finding a way to win. The offense wasn't playing well, so the defense stepped up. Against the Falcons, 2 fourth-down stops in the fourth quarter. That, for me, was the sign that they were a great team who were eventually going to develop into what we thought they were. But what you have to realise eventually is that teams will show you who they are. And over the course of now 13 weeks, I believe less and less and less that this Chiefs team are going to turn it around. And actually, if anything, I actually think they're getting worse rather than better.
Yeah.
Like, a Spags defense is meant to get better as the season goes forward, and Steve Spagnuolo's defense was bad against the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell sat in the pocket and absolutely dealt for the Raiders.
He had some dimes. He was dialing it up.
He's 2-0 against the Chiefs in his career. But if you go back and watch that first Chiefs performance, they fluked their way to it. He was brilliant against this team, and it's because that defense did not show up. The Chiefs are not good enough, and previously I would have said, but you know what? One-off playoff game, if they're playing an inexperienced team, if they get to the Super Bowl, somehow fluke their way there, and they face the Lions, in my head 2 weeks ago, I'd gone, I just back them because you can't not back Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Right now, I wouldn't back them against any other team in that top 4, 5, 6 in the NFL in a one-off game. I don't think they can win the Super Bowl this year unless something drastic changes over the course of the next 5 weeks.
We've been waiting for 13 weeks for that to happen. I was actually thinking last week, I was going back and pulling their stats for a talkSPORT story, and we do forget a little. Okay, well, at one point last year, the Chiefs were 9-6, and they lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day, and you were like, okay, this team is not going to put it together. But that was a different team, a different situation with more talent. The Chiefs, they have not clicked the entire season. They're the luckiest team in the NFL. It will end at some point, or they will make NFL history and prove everybody wrong. But right now, they're not good enough.
And I feel like I'm the one who always bangs on about the trenches. The pass rush isn't good enough. Chris Jones was their best edge rusher. He's a defensive tackle. He admittedly had probably his best game of the season against the Raiders, but it required them moving him all about the formation. He was the only guy they had who could get any penetration.
Also had a few offsides penalties, right? Because he's trying to jump every single snap.
Because he knows he's the only guy, and so he's trying too hard and trying to do everything. I thought the offensive line is dreadful.
It's bad.
And honestly, and this is going to be absolutely sound like a bitter pill, and I will absolutely take it. I love that officials, when it comes to the playoffs, as a rule, hold on to their flags. They like to let guys play because they know they're on the biggest stage and they want to be as entertaining as possible. This Chiefs offensive line has been bad for a few years, gives away a lot of penalties, and yet against Nick Bosa in the last 2 Super Bowls.
Here we go, 49ers thing.
They haven't given up a single penalty in over 120 minutes of football, because there was an overtime as well. It's ridiculous. But if that offensive line plays like this in the playoffs, they're not getting past the wild card round or the divisional round.
I've never seen, and I feel like I've watched almost every Mahomes game and all the playoff games. And I love Mahomes, for the record, UK, America.
Yeah.
I love Patrick Mahomes. But I've never seen Patrick Mahomes appear this unsteady. He can rarely set his feet. He's always throwing on the run. He's always having to scramble. He's off target a lot because he doesn't have the time. It's all off right now, Will.
Does it feel like one of those seasons where we're going to get to the end of it, where they're going to lose, if they lose the 1 seed in the wild card round or in the divisional round, somebody's going to come into the Chiefs, somebody's going to come into Arrowhead, beat them, and you're suddenly going to hear Mahomes has been carrying a high ankle sprain. Mahomes has been carrying there'll be that injury that
Travis Kelce has a broken heart, and that's what's been they've been covering that up all season, and it's not something. I mean, we've had shows titled this for talkSPORT End Zone. What is wrong with Mahomes, and the Chiefs don't deserve to be undefeated. This has all been valid and accurate so far, and it'd be different if we were the only people on planet Earth saying this. Every NFL fan can see this. When I go write stories and I go look in the reader comments, everyone's like, how come they haven't lost 5 games? It's all smoke and mirrors. And obviously they want to mention that it's all rigged and it's all scripted and the refs are bailing them out, because that's a huge thing on social media right now. But factually, statistically, they are not that good. They could easily, if they're 11-1, they could easily be 7-5 or 5-7 right now. And how long can this continue to happen, especially when Patrick Mahomes is the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, when it looks, he's almost always on the verge of going down, of getting hurt, of twisting his ankle. I think it feels like right now, again, they have run out of magic.
Right, let's talk about our extra points. And I'll do mine first, because I just had a bit of fun with the 49ers when it came to talking about the Chiefs. San Francisco go to Buffalo, lose 35-10, back-to-back blowouts, worst 2-game stretch of Kyle Shanahan's era as the San Francisco 49ers head coach. And this feels very similar to the 2020 season. Both those years, they came off the back of a loss to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They came into the next season, had horrible injury luck, and just completely fell apart. I want to tackle this from a 2-tier perspective, right? The first one is to send a message to the 49ers. But then the second one is to send a message to the 49ers fans about why there are reasons to be cheerful.
The floor is yours.
I think they got this entirely wrong this season. I think not going and getting new blood in the building, of not bringing in a defensive coordinator from the outside with new ideas, a special teams coordinator from the outside with new ideas, by becoming way too insular, that just prevented them from growing as a team. You add to that the Brandon Ayuk holdout, the Trent Williams holdout, the Ricky Pearsall shooting, which slowed down everything in those last 2 weeks before the season started. They came into this year already way behind the 8 ball. Christian McCaffrey, tendonitis, misses half the year. All those things set them behind, and yet they never adjusted. They never learnt, they never fixed those problems, and they had plenty of time to do it. If I'm the 49ers right now, and there have been some horrible situations with that team, and you have to feel sorry for a team where they lose their best corner for 4 games because sadly his child passes away, where we hear this horrible news about Trent Williams, just like those things you have to feel sorry for them for, but they need to shut this team down. They need to put every starter from a broken ankle on Fred Warner to Trent Williams to Brock Purdy, everyone needs to go on IR. You kill the season now. But you know that all that talent's coming back next year.
Yeah.
You know you can go and get new coaching. You know that there is still a nucleus of phenomenal players here and a genius at head coach. And you just say, this wasn't our year. Put it in the books. 2025, they'll probably still be Super Bowl favourites out of the NFC, knowing how the bookmakers work, and tackle it again next year. Just accept that this is a blown year.
And I will also add to that, you didn't have Christian McCaffrey basically the entire year, and he is your guy. Without him, they're not good. There's another team that should just shut it down, and basically has already shut it down. Well, the Chicago Bears. Now, I don't have time. I don't have time to get into Matt Eberflus and getting called out in the locker room by a player, and then he's doing a press conference, and then they fire him basically during the press conference. I don't have time to do all that. This is a fact. Caleb Williams is very, very talented, and I've been hard on Caleb Williams, but I've also pumped him up. He can clearly be a franchise quarterback. He's only going to be a franchise quarterback. He is only going to make the playoffs, win a championship game, make the Super Bowl with a good, not even the greatest, a good head coach. This is the Bears' shot. And it might be their only shot because they screwed it up the first time. And they knew the whole time Matt Eberflus wasn't going to work out. You've got to hire the right coach. And I've seen defensive coaches put out there, offensive coaches put out there. I don't care what, they could be a special teams coach. You go the John Harbaugh route. But if you're going to have a messed up front office and one of the most dysfunctional organizations in the NFL, but you also luck out and get Caleb Williams, you have to get your head coach right. I can't believe they made it this far with Matt Eberflus. Here is their shot. Great fan base in Chicago, great sports city in Chicago. The Bears have been waiting decades to have it's like Jim McMahon have a franchise quarterback. Hire the right bleeping head coach for Caleb Williams or you're going to screw Bears fans forever.